disapproved it for the key reason that it did all this really messed up stuff, all right? For example, it blamed Germany for the war, right? It also is going to force the Germans to pay back reparations at the tune of $33 billion, adjusted for inflation, that's $2.7 trillion, all right?
Oh.
And did Germany pay it all off?
No.
Yeah, they did. They got done paying it off in 2011.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right when Gangnam Style came out, same month. That's how you yell like nice. That's crazy.
I remember they were still paying that when they went into the Second War.
Yes, exactly. Well into the Second War, right? Germany also had to give up its colonies. They had to demilitarize, which means take their military and make it much what? Smaller. And we also got a new country. Poland's back. So Poland is back. All right. Now look. Also, really quick, let's talk about this thing called the Rhineland. All right. There also in the Treaty of Versailles was a call for the demilitarization of this thing called the Rhineland. Right. What the Rhineland is? It's the area next to what river?
The Rhine.
The Rhine River. There you go. Right. There's the Rhine River that separates Germany and what country that started this whole thing off? What country does Germany not like? France, yeah, exactly, right? So France was like, they're not allowed to have a single soldier on the banks of the Rhine right there, right on their border. And they're like, look, you cannot have anybody there. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Highlight Rhineland, know where it is, okay? So going into it, though, also the maps are going to be completely redrawn. And what's going to happen is you're going to get a lot of new countries,
Look
right?
at all these Slavs,
all these,
bro.
I know. Poland gets its own country. Yugoslavia gets its own country. Say that one. Czechoslovakia, right?
Isn't Yugoslavia not real anymore, though?
It was real at one point. Sorry, I don't know why, but it's like not real
Where did
anymore.
it go?
It's like a make-believe monster. It's like unicorns in
Yeah.
Czechoslovakia. Sorry, Molly. Sorry,
We're gonna
Molly.
make
Look,
unicorns.
I'm gonna make Molly upset.
No,
Now, also,
like not
Czechoslovakia, Alsace-Lorraine goes back to France, and finally, Rosie, your favorite people died.
No!
So yeah, the Ottoman Empire dies and turns into what? Starts the T.
Dust.
Turkey. Turkey.
Oh
Yeah, exactly.
my God.
And then Austria-Hungary separates into Austria and Hungary. There you
It
go,
turned
right?
into Turkey.
They were hungry
Yeah,
for turkey.
not a turkey, but yes, into turkey.
No.
Not like the Ottoman Empire turned into like not that. No, like you know, like it's
Wait.
gonna turn into the country of
Are
Turkey.
people
Yeah.
from
So
Turkey called
depressing.
Turks?
Turks, yeah, the
Okay.
Turks. Yeah, the Turks. Also, apparently, it's gorgeous. All right, so here we go. Now, what we're
It
getting
is.
into
It's
though
really pretty there.
is the interwar years. All right, we are getting into the period of time that comes where in the wars?
The Roaring Twenties.
Between the two. Yeah, exactly. We were talking about the era of time between the two wars, okay? The stuff from the 1920s to 1939, which is two big subjects that you actually probably know a what
The Great
about
Depression.
already. A lot about. You already know some stuff that happened. A lot of you have already heard of the Roaring Twenties. You've heard of the Great Depression. You've heard of all
Rosie
this.
the Riveter.
Thank you, Rosie.
You're welcome.
The non-riveter, but still. The Rosie the Riveting. How about that? Like so, you like that better? That's yeah. All right, here we go. We still do it. Sorry, that's just good stuff. So yeah, here we go. Now look, really quick, going into it though, the interwar years, however, when you're looking at it through a European lens, is not called the Roaring Twenties. There is some Great Depression, and I know some of you are like, oh, it's like sophomore year. I get it. Har, har, har. I know you have a hard life. All right, so yeah, here we go. Now look, going into it though, you have to
We're in the
understand.
sophomore slump right now.
The Roaring Twenties was happening mainly where?
Us.
In the U.S. So, yeah, we were having the Roaring
we
Twenties,
just
right?
had our independence.
Yes.
We're
Well,
living
I mean,
our
like
best life.
we've been having our
But, like,
independence. We know the big thing is we got a bunch of what now?
Money.
We have money now.
Because we won the war.
Exactly. Think about it this way, Miley. You have to understand that there was a massive rise in a consumer economy in the United States,
Cars?
right? In the 1920s. Yeah. What I mean by that is there's a bunch of new products that people can buy, and also, Miley, after a world war where we used to buy a lot of stuff that got processed in Europe post-industrial revolution, what are their factories looking right now?
Broken.
Broken, blown
So
up,
we're-
set on
we're
fire.
making it
Half of their
here.
workers are what?
Wait, right?
And what?
So we're making it here now?
Yes, we started
And it's
producing.
cheaper,
And we
because
started
we don't
producing.
have to
Yes,
ship
you
it
don't have to
over the
ship it back and
Is
forth
this
and stuff like
the
that. Yeah.
second wave of the Industrial Revolution?
This you could argue is like a continuation of the second wave of the industrial. I'll tell you another little bit. So, for example, Henry Ford is going to design a car known as the what? Ford car. Yeah. Wait, y'all don't know the model? It's a letter. Thank you, Julia. Yeah, the Model T, right? Which was super affordable, and a bunch of people went out and bought them. And then also people are going to start buying things like refrigerators. But yeah, they have like new appliances. Ice boxes.
No more maggots. Oh, no more maggots.
So, first of all, I just want to throw this all out there also. One day, if your husband buys you a refrigerator as a gift, if your partner one day gives you a fridge and is like, happy birthday.
Wait, it
sweetheart,"
depends. It depends.
Punch that person in the face. All right,
No,
unless
no.
it's one of the ones that can like talk and
Yes,
tell you the weather. Yeah, let's say,
yes.
yeah. If it can land a spacecraft on Mars, then like fine, that's kind of cool. You know what I mean? But like no. Well, so yeah, like that's raggedy. All right, so now look.
I
But the
want
big
one of
reason
the ones
why
that has
though the
Instagram.
Roaring Twenties is happening is because of that consumer economy. Cheap fashions are now available. Also, there's the birth of this thing that every single one of y'all loves to death. Have you ever heard of this little place that a lot of you like called Walgreens? So yeah, I know, like really quick. So Walgreens, yeah, the birth of the pharmacy, like the one-stop shop drug pharmacy, happens in the 1920s as well.
what's it,
Easy
the-
to afford pharmaceuticals, and also you didn't just buy medicine there, you'd also buy what?
Haircut.
Hair, like you get hair products, like yeah, different kinds of
Makeup,
fashion stuff,
beauty.
makeup, beauty products, right? They used to have lunch counters you could go and eat at and
Wait,
stuff.
was this
You could
the-
get like a soda or like a fountain soda, like off the
Yeah,
tap. You
did
know what I'm
they
talking about?
put
A milkshake, like it was great because you were doing all this stuff. Also, guess what? We got the cinema coming out. You can now go to the what? The movies. Yeah.
Wasn't grocery stores invented during this time?
Yes, well, the big
The
ones.
early.
Yeah, the big ones that you think of, right? Like a one-stop shop thing, right? And then you can now go to movies and see actors like this guy. Who's that actor? Charlie Chaplin is his name. For those of you who are like, is that Hitler? No, that's Charlie Chaplin.
I was gonna
That's
say
like,
he looks like a really bad
I
version
know.
of Edward
Well, he actually
Scissorhands.
popularized the little push brew mustache, right?
He
And
had
so like
those
now.
weird dancing styles, right?
Yes, he did
Like,
the
he
whole
was like-
thing. Yeah, he like did roller skates and stuff. It was like he was actually trained in the circus arena.
Was he in one of the Wonka
So yeah.
movies?
So now look. Also, why do you think the radio was such a big deal when it blew up in the 1920s? Like, why do you think the radio was such a
Because
huge
they
deal?
didn't have phones.
Newspapers.
Yeah, they didn't have
were
phones.
The only
What
way
else
you
you
could
gonna
get your like information and entertainment.
Heck yeah, Rosie! You are now taking something that the printing press sped up, and now you're making it even what?
Quicker.
Even quicker, right? Something could happen, and you turn your radio on, and now there's what news?
Fast news.
Oh my God, I hate you.
News.
Starts with a B.
Flash news.
Flash breaking news. Yeah, there's flash news.
Yeah, you know, like
If you ever turn on the TV, it's like flash news. So yeah, I want you to turn that off. Hey, I'll tell you, it just doesn't sound like a good place to be. All right, so yeah, no, look, really quick. But yeah, it is breaking news. All right, so yeah, breaking news, right? Exactly. Also, we've got a new version of what running around? Women! No, yeah, the new woman is being born in the 1920s, right? Now, really quickly, this is the one part that when you look at this, yes, the Roaring 20s were happening, mostly because of this, but did the cinema get its birth in Europe also? Could you go to a movie now in Europe? Yeah, you could, right? Could you get a radio like broadcast in Europe now too? Yeah, you could. And also, here's the other interesting thing. In several countries in Europe, no, so I said several, not what, not all. All right, yeah. Like this new image of the new woman is coming up, right? And a lot of this is coming off the heels of the 1800s because there were a lot of different political movements for women during the 1800s. Why do you think women during World War I were like, "Hey, we deserve the right to friggin' vote"? Like, why do you think that was?
The factories when the men were gone.
Yes, they were the ones who replaced the labor.
Was that
All right.
the 19th Amendment?
Yes, the 19th Amendment here. Okay, yeah. So you're gonna see that like women can now vote. Let's say yeah. Also, in 1918, women were allowed to vote in Great Britain, right, due to the suffrage movements that had happened during the war itself. Also, women now worked and stuff like that. They have now gotten into certain industries where they're very, very popular employees. So they are making their own friggin' money, and they're doing what with it?
Are we allowed to be in the mines still?
No. You want to go back? I'll tell you. Like, can I go in the line? No, I'll tell you now, like, really quick. So going into it, though, okay? Also, she danced, all right? What is that image of a flapper when I put it out there?
Like
What is that? What is a flapper? Yeah, the dress, right? Thank
they
you.
were
Good
in
job,
the-
Molly. The Charleston with the
they
big
were in
dance
the
that came out in the
secret
1920s.
bars.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So that's the one thing you gotta.
Speakeasies.
Yes, you gotta separate this a little bit. Okay. Did they have prohibition in America?
Yes, we probably didn't
Yeah,
have
but
it
did
in
Europeans ever give up?
No, they
You know, like,
love it.
Europeans are like,
They
I'm
have
sorry,
children.
quoi? I tell you, like now you go up to a French person and be like, no more wine for you. They'd be like,
They might punch you in the face.
yeah, I agree. They'll put a cigarette out on you. I tell you, I know. Look,
Burn you
So
with a
also,
cigarette.
she even did what on her own skis now? She smoked, right? Yeah, exactly. There were a lot of new boundaries
Wait, can you
being
go back
broken.
to that?
So yeah. Oh wait, right here.
I can't see it.
Oh, it's right there. That's it. Yeah, here we go. Also, why is this happening though? Okay, the next things I'm going to put up in red are a big reason as to why all this money is being made and why all this stuff is going on. Right? For example, you have the invention of the assembly line is going to be really big, which is making products at an exponentially faster rate now. Right? It used to make things very slow. Now it makes things very what? Very fast. Yeah, exactly, right? The assembly line comes along and really changes the game. Another big one is the adoption of the 5-day work week, right? That some of you are like, please kill me now. All right, I understand that, but Molly, guess how many days a week you worked back in the day?
7.
7 days a week, yeah. They are now, really quickly, Molly, why do you think a 5-day work week, when you go from 7 days of working to 5 days of working, actually stimulates the economy? Yes, Molly, I love that answer. It's not sleepy. Yes, yes.
Leisure.
Well, what are you doing with leisure time?
You're funny.
You're
You
going out
are.
and you are spending money. Yeah, you are leisure timing it now. Your people are now beginning to go on summer vacations, right? People are now getting in their new Model T Ford and driving to the beach with their friends, which costs gas and it costs money, and it stimulates the economy
And
very
going
effectively.
to the store to get a new bathing suit.
I thought you for a
to
second.
tan.
I don't know why. I bet like I feel. Yeah, me too. I heard
They're
going to
they're
the store to
driving.
get a new baby. I'm like, there's one of those. You can do that. Yeah.
They're driving.
It's like a vending machine. Yeah.
They're driving to the
So,
cinema.
yeah.
They gotta pay for the cinema.
Now I just imagine a baby vending machine. And I'm sorry, but in my brain, I imagine both types of baby vending machine, and one of them is like one, you know, the new vending machines that like the thing goes like, and it
Yes,
goes up
yes.
and catches it and then brings it down nice and soft.
No, and then the
That's
other
the
one
first
is just
one I
like,
thought.
no.
So, yeah, the second one, on the other hand, is like,
It's
I just
like,
imagine a baby
just
getting
falls
stuck, and it's
in.
like, oh man, and like, yeah,
Like
like,
the
like
Shark
so,
movie, when they go
anyway,
down the
right,
slot.
just like store that one, catalog it away.
I'm
Alright, then
gonna
I'm
have
like,
ChatGPT.
but
to make
all
that
this
for me
stuff
later.
is very important. Now I have to throw this out there, but art is going to change tremendously. All this stuff right here, not again. You know, no.
Can they
Art
just keep
changes
making
in a
the
big
same
way.
art forever? No.
Check it out. But art starts looking like this.
The soup can.
Abstract.
Yeah.
That's
No, that's
evil.
pop. Okay, hold on. Pump the brick. Da-da. Yeah, there you go. Jot
Wait,
these
we
three.
talked about that.
Dardar. Yeah, Dardar art. All right, there we go. Now look, throwing this out there. Somebody tell me, looking at this different stuff. First of all, you have this one by Kandinsky. This is called non-representational art, which literally means it represents what? Anything. Yeah, it's just circles and squares and stuff. So yeah, and then you have Dadaism, which is just an absolute mishmash of randomness and intensity and the urinal upside down. Oh, yeah, like now. So like that one. And then you have Surrealism, which is a very, very famous artist that is a surrealist. Who is that? Salvador Dali. Yeah, that is Salvador Dali, right? For example, also, what do y'all think this thing is?
It's a dog.
A straight jacket.
It's like an ink blot test. It's
Two
like a
very
Rorschach
different
test.
answers.
A
Wait, wait.
table?
It's a face. That's an eye and eyelashes and an eyebrow and a nose.
No, that's the duck's
Oh, yeah,
beak.
so yeah, no, that's not a duck. It's
No,
a
let me
face.
show you.
No, it doesn't look like that.
That's the duck's beak and it's lying out.
Say hi to Gabrielle.
Gabrielle,
It's
Brianna, I
dying.
hope you're enjoying
And
this. So, yeah. All right, anyway, now get out of here. No, anyway, so this right here is called the Persistence of Memory, very famous surrealist art. But somebody tell me really quickly, how do you think the art changing dramatically is like a window into the European psyche after this war? All right, so now
What's
like,
a psyche?
a psyche is
Our
like the
brains
mindset. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's a very intense time. A lot of Americans called this the Roaring '20s. Europeans referred to this as the Age of Anxiety. Why do you think they call this the Age of Anxiety?
Because they nervous.
Because they what?
Nervous.
They nervous. They are anxious that another war
It's gonna
could what?
start. Because of that Treaty
Could
of
start.
Versailles.
Yes, okay.
They decided.
What?
They signed it. Why are they nervous?
Well, you have to understand, there's still.
They're not very
Here's
smart.
why. All right, let's talk about why. The Age of Anxiety is popping up for a lot of different reasons, Kylie. Okay, because you still, after World War I, have some really, really intense lingering issues. Right now, what I mean by lingering issues is problems that Europe never actually fixed, and the war definitely didn't what? Didn't fix. Yeah, exactly. Okay. For example, anti-Semitism, massive amounts of racism, violence against minorities is happening in the United States as well. Now, I'm bringing this point up really quickly because you should know that during the Roaring '20s, there was this terrible, disgusting thing happening in the South a lot known as lynchings. Do you know what that is?
No.
So yeah, where basically people in a town would be attacking people of color because of a minor infraction that they might have done, and then executing them as a town, right? Like, so yeah, the very first person to actually like reach out and talk about it was this woman named Ida B. Wells. All right, you'll learn a lot about her next year. Okay, so going into it though, also this one out of these four though, why does Mr. Terry want you to highlight the word that starts with right there with the E? Eugenics.
Because Eugene.
No. So, yeah, eugenics is a disgusting thought process that popped up during the 1920s. Actually, it goes even back further than that.
We talked about this in psychology, I think.
Oh, wow, yeah. So the eugenics movement is a pseudoscience. Now, really quickly, when I say pseudo, I mean it's not what?
Real.
It ain't real. Not yet, okay? Now, it ain't never going to be real either, okay? Eugenics is a pseudoscience that's aimed at creating people that are apparently, quote-unquote, genetically superior, right? By excluding them, by excluding them. Basically what this leads to, some of you are like, okay, but how do you exclude somebody? This movement in America in particular, but also in Europe, led to a giant rate of forced sterilization of people. Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
Making it so they can't have what?
They can't make
can't have
babies.
kids. Yeah. So, for example, to men, they would force them to inhale what's called saltpeter. It's a chemical and stuff like that that will actually forcefully sterilize a person. Or there are also surgical procedures that they would do. Like, you have to understand, thousands of people are going to be sterilized in California alone. All right, so yeah, it was one of the biggest states for the eugenics movement that actually happened. Okay, and really quickly, what other thing that pops up in Europe during the 1930s do you think is related to this? It's the Holocaust science, all right? It is the whole thing that Hitler believed in, is the eugenics movement. You see what I'm talking about? Yeah, because he wanted to do, huh?
They were forced.
Yeah, so like he wanted to remove them from society.
I mean the eugenics.
Oh, the eugenics? What do you mean?
Are they, were people forced to
Yes, you could be arrested and stuff like that. For example, is this even going to linger around a little bit after and during World War II as well? A little bit as well, yeah. There actually was this guy that was a major eugenicist, all right? Now, eugenicist means that you're a giant racist and you're a terrible, awful person. You probably, if there's a bad place, you're probably in it right now. All right, so now look, y'all see his name probably every day. His name is Robert Kellogg. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, Robert Kellogg. Yeah, of the cereal Kellogg's. Yeah, Robert Kellogg owned a mental hospital.
An insane asylum.
Prison. Yeah,
That's what cornflakes were made.
Yeah, he created cornflakes to try and make them some kind of cheap crap that he could feed them and stuff like that. And that's where cornflakes comes from. So basically, if you ever find yourself eating cornflakes,
was to feed people he was
that's
bullying.
a product of a eugenicist. All right, so yeah, Robert Kellogg is a terrible, awful, terrible person, and I hope that if one of his descendants is hearing this right now, now, anyway, now look, really quick. Going into it, though, you have to understand that's really,
just
really
watching
important. So, now look. So, also, you have a massive number of World War I veterans where their lives have been exponentially changed, right? How have these men's lives been changed forever? They're now coming back from war. How? They're shot, they're injured, they're burned. Some of them may have been blinded by mustard gas, right? You're talking about really, really, really insane moments, okay? And also, you're seeing the very first instances of something known that at the time called shell shock. What do you think is the now modern term for shell shock? PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. I think they've even changed it again since then, right?
No.
Or is it still called that?
Well, there's different forms.
Gotcha, okay. They called it shell shock, though. Why? Why do you think looking back into World War I and knowing what you know about the weapons and stuff like that, it's the artillery shells. Yeah, exactly. The shells and the bangs and stuff like that could possibly set someone off and turn and actually send them into a very fearful state. It was almost impossible for many of these men to return to the jobs that they once left. Now, this woman, I like to talk about her a lot because, you know what I'm saying, I like to try and make sure that y'all know that there were amazing women in history that did really, really awesome stuff. This woman right here is named Anna Coleman Ladd, and she actually dedicated her entire life to making prosthetic masks for World War I veterans so they could go about their everyday life again. I know. This man's entire face was destroyed by an artillery shell, so she made him a prosthetic mask that he could wear out in the streets and stuff like that so he could actually resume his life, right?
So cute.
Yeah, I love Anna Coleman Ladd. She's a very, very cool person. So now look, going into it though, you also have to understand 23 million men were injured veterans, right? And this is going to be a really, really important process right here, because why do you think those men in particular are prone to radical ideas? All right, now so really quickly, for real, why do you think a lot of these injured men with PTSD, especially those soldiers that lost World War I, why do you think that they're very prone to radicalizing ideas like Nazism or fascism, all right? So why do you think that is?
They want it to where they never have to go and do what they did.
Okay, yeah, they're already at a very weakened mental state, right? Exactly, okay? And also, a lot of these men are looking for someone to what? To blame, all right? And a lot of these leaders later on, like your Adolf Hitlers, are going to give them someone to blame. You see what I'm talking about? So keep that in the back of your mind, okay? You have to understand a lot of this stuff, because have any of y'all ever sat down and thought to yourself before,
Can you go
why,
back, please?
how the heck did these people come to power? Like, why didn't somebody just stand up and say, this is wrong? Like, how could you listen to the things he was saying and think to yourself, like, this makes sense? Have any of you ever, like, thought about that before? Yeah, I mean, like, it seems like that's something that you would, like, how would any person of decent moral value ever look at this guy and be like, yeah, this dude would make sense? Like, it's ridiculous, right? Well, the reason why is that these men are often very, very, like, they're, like, very much just destroyed mentally. And so he's taking advantage of that very, very weakened state, right?
Okay,
So-
wait.
That's
So Hitler had supporters in America?
Oh, you want to know somebody who donated money to Hitler and the Nazis?
Oh God.
Walt Disney.
Yeah, I'm not shocked.
I tell you, yeah, like, no, yeah, he gave, like, he was like, he wrote diatribes about how he thought Hitler was like a great leader and stuff.
I bet you. Ooh.
Yeah, I tell you, yeah. Fun fact. Yay. Mickey Mouse.
I can't wait to hear more about this.
I tell you, yeah, like,
Okay,
anyway.
Mr. Jerry,
Really quick.
you're prepping me so much for Miss Hook's class next year.
Oh, bro, I got something you're gonna be fine. No, it's okay, here we go. Economic hardships also are going to strike a lot of places as well. So on top of the fact that you have like anti-Semitism, racism, eugenics growing in these places, also you have World War I veterans returning, right? You also have to understand that in particular places, you're seeing a lot of people run out of every single dime that they have ever what? Saved. Yeah, exactly, okay? So something that's going to hit places like Germany especially is this thing known as hyperinflation, all right? Really, really quickly, what do you think the difference between regular inflation and hyperinflation is?
Didn't we talk about this with Spain?
Yes, we did talk about the... Good job, Rosie. We did talk about this with Spain, all right? Whenever you have too much money in your economy, people instinctively begin to do what to their prices? They raise them, right? Exactly, okay? Now, if you're Germany, why do you think there was so much money available in their entire society? Because the government was printing it like crazy so they could pay what?
Off the debt.
Pay off the debts and the reparations, right? So what's happening, though, is you also have a massive amount of money in their economy, so everybody in it is raising prices. You have high unemployment. You've got failing businesses. People's savings have been destroyed, and the government is very weak and doesn't know what to do. And the government that was in charge at the time in Germany was called the Weimar Republic, okay? The Weimar Republic is going to be very important going into World War II, mainly characterized by its extreme what? Starts with a W, ends with an eekness. Oh my!
I have a.
Oh my
kind of,
God,
like-
you are so smart. So yeah, fun fact too. Guess who becomes the president of the Weimar Republic at one point, and is the last president of the Weimar Republic before it fails? Hindenburg. You ever heard of Hindenburg? There was a blimp named after him. Yeah, there was a yeah, there was a blimp that blew up that was named after him. Yeah, exactly, right? President Hindenburg is what his name was, right? He was the last German leader at the time. This right here also demonstrates to you how bad hyperinflation was. What do you think this man is taking over 1 million Deutschmarks to go and buy? How much, what do you think he was buying with this wheelbarrow full of money?
A carton of milk.
One loaf of bread.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so yeah, one loaf of bread.
All left
Their
bread,
money
bro.
was worth such meaningless amounts that children played with it in the streets like it was blocks. And this woman right here made a dress out of it for fun for a New
Wait,
Year's party. Because
That's
you know
so
what?
cute. Though.
Yeah, I know. It's a,
I like her
you just said I
dress.
would do that. I said, yeah, exactly right.
Absolutely.
I love how like this is where y'all locked in. I like that. That's a great idea. I was like, yeah, here we go.
I have a
Now going
question.
into what's up, kid? Yeah.
This might be like a random question.
Jot that down. This is
Like,
very important.
How do countries pay back other countries? Do they just send like money in bags or like?
So that's a really great question.
How do
So,
they
yeah.
send them their
A lot of it
reparations?
is wire transfers and bank bonds and then also treasury bonds, right? So basically a lot of countries, whenever they are supposed to be paying each other back, they give them stake in their economy, right? For example, with a lot of this stuff, like nobody's going to send the money back and forth to exchange it because it's going to lose what? It's going to lose value, right? If you buy treasury bonds, though, you're basically investing in the country's GDP, right? And so the more money America makes, the more money that treasury
they're not
bond is
just
now worth. Yeah, and basically all of it's fugazi, Miley. Do you know what fugazi means?
Nope.
It means not real, stupid, and made up. But
Oh.
yeah, money is like literally at this point the most fictitious thing that you have ever seen or heard of. Do you need it? Yes. Do you need it to survive? Yes. Does it buy happiness?
Sometimes.
I mean, not completely, but a little. So, anyway, so it makes the let me put it to you this way: let them buy happiness, but it makes getting up that hill like a heck of a lot easier. You know what I'm talking about? Like, now look, going up to it or going into it, you have to understand though also, okay, that it just doesn't do anything like it used to, okay? But what all this negativity and bad stuff is going to help lead to is a rise of fascism, right? Now, really quickly, how many of y'all have heard that word fascism before, okay? Raise your hand if you've never heard that word fascism before. Don't lie to me. I'll close my eyes. I won't make fun of you.
I've heard
Raise
it.
your hand if you've never heard the word fascism before. Is anybody's hand up?
No.
Are they lying?
No.
Okay. All right, so yeah, now look, really quickly, do any of you know what it means?
No.
Yeah, okay, here's the thing. Have you heard it thrown around a bunch, especially in the modern era?
Yes.
Is it a very common insult that people will hurl at each other on the internet? Like, yeah, shut up, fascist. Yeah, exactly, right? And then the other one is, no, you shut up, communist. You know what I mean? Or commie or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? It's a very often hurled insult, right? So what it means, first of all, it comes from a Roman symbol, all right? How many of y'all know that symbol from Latin? It's called a fasces. It's like a what you call it? It's an axe with wooden rods wrapped around it and stuff like that. Because it's supposed to be like the union of the people and the government together will make an unbreakable device. For those of y'all, what?
learned this, but I don't remember why.
We learned
This
this
goes
at the
in
end of the year from your flip.
Yeah, I know. There are two of them where?
Like it's in like the U.S.
Yes, it's in the back of the U.S. Senate Hall. There are two golden ones on the back of the Senate Hall, right? Yeah, there's two of them on a building in New Orleans, right? Does that mean Americans are fascist? No, it's just a commonly used symbol. Because the thing about it is this guy named Benito Mussolini is going to pop up and he's going to create it. Yeah, he's going to make the whole party and stuff like that.
Sound happy when you
No,
say
I know who that is.
Yeah, no, it was an exclamation of knowing.
Well,
Even though Mussolini does sound like something you would order at Olive
Who,
Garden.
Mussolini?
That's
That's a
pasta
pasta shape.
Mussolini. Here we go. Now look, going into it, that you have to understand. By the way, fun fact, spoiler alert: he's gonna die before this war is over because the Italians are
Spoiler.
gonna turn on him and beat him to death. Hurrah! And they hang him upside down from a gas station and turn him into a human pinata.
I knew about that.
Yeah, and no, I'm making that up. No, guess what that gas station is now? A
7-Eleven.
McDonald's.
Oh.
And I've eaten at that McDonald's. I rolled up because I wanted to see the place where he died and stuff like that. And I was like, it's a McDonald's now. I really want a McDonald's now. So yeah, and also fun fact, European McDonald's, they serve everything in plastic instead of paper so they can
Yeah.
wash it.
And they don't have Burger King, they have Hungry Jacks. It's different.
Oh, they have Burger King in Hungary, which is ironic. So here we go. Now look. So going into it though, what fascism is, okay, is a far right. Okay, what do we mean by right? When we say right, we mean super what? Starts with a C into the conservative. Yeah, a very aggressively conservative ideology that is ultra-nationalist, right? Now, when I say ultra-nationalist, it's like they believe that what is the most important thing on the planet? Themselves and their country, right? Yeah, boys.
No, I said force.
Oh, I thought you said boys.
Boys.
So it's kind of like, for example, when you're talking about ultra-nationalists, they believe that the country's progress and its benefit and its glory is more important than its what? Than its individuals. Do you see what I'm talking about? They believe that some people need to be sacrificed in order to make the place great and stuff like that, okay? It is characterized by forcible suppression of opposition. And if somebody goes against them, they do what to them?
They kill them.
They use violence against them, right? They also believe in strict obedience to the state and to your leader and the suppression of opposition to promote like the country or a race. Because did you hear that whole thing thrown around when y'all weren't learning about World War II back in the day? That there's a race of people that Hitler believed in? Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Who am I talking about? He believed in what race? Starts with A. Do you know what it is? The Aryan race, right? Now, really quickly, some of y'all probably also were taught this at one point in your life. That the Holocaust occurred, and that during the Holocaust, he was trying to weed out anybody that didn't have what two physical characteristics.
Blonde hair.
Is that a myth?
Yes.
Yes, that is a myth, okay? Because he himself had brown hair and brown eyes. That means that what's he gonna do at the very? Well, I mean, he did shoot himself, but still. Anyway, now. So going into it, all right. What? You say spoiler alert right there? Wait, you didn't know that? We're all aware that he shot himself, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was making sure. I was gonna say, if you're walking around in society right now, be like, I wonder where he went. Dead. No, that's all. Now look.
Wait,
So,
I thought
you know
he
how many parts of his body that we have?
I thought he poisoned himself.
Three.
No, he poisoned his wife and their dogs and then
Oh,
shot
yeah.
himself.
Like, why the dog? What?
I know!
What?
Let the allies adopt the dog! Yeah. Also, really quick, do you know why he shot himself? Because who was really dangerously close? Sorry, was it the Americans got too close to him?
No, yeah.
The Russians. Something that a lot of people will not tell you because they don't want you to know this in American schools in a lot of ways. Y'all, we did not win World War II. We helped win it in a massive way, like we helped in a huge big way, but the ultimate winners of World War I, the people that really shifted the entire tide, was the Soviets. Yeah, the Soviets did not mess around about this, right? Do you know how
But then we
many
fought them,
Russian
right?
citizens or Soviet citizens died in World War II? How many? First of all, how many Jewish people died during the Holocaust? How many?
Like 5 million.
Millions. 6 million, right? Around 6 million. Another 5 million people that were considered undesirable died, right? Because
Oh.
they might have been autistic, they might have been like homosexual or of a different sexual orientation, they might have been a person of color, they might have actually committed a certain crime that they deemed unforgivable and stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. But then that's 11 million total in the Holocaust. Do you know how many Soviet citizens died in World War II? 27 million.
Oh!
Yeah, like 27 million. 2 of their cities got bombarded by the Nazis for 3.5 straight years, and they just refused to surrender. At one point, they were eating a soup made out of rats and wallpaper just to endure and survive. Okay, what's up with you and the rats and wall? Why did you just lean up and look at you and go, the rats and the wallpaper?
No.
So yeah, like
no,
that.
the
Rats
woman
and
in the woman in the yellow wallpaper.
Oh, I thought you said the rats and the wallpaper. Like y'all were there. Like for a minute, I was like, wait, are y'all immortal too? Do we need to get together and talk about this? It's like a Highlander situation. We have to fight. Like now.
We read this poem.
Do you know that movie, Ryan?
Yes.
Ugh, Ryan, you're my hero. All right, here we go. So big dictators in these fascist organizations, okay, include Benito Mussolini, who is the leader of Italy, Adolf Hitler, who is the leader of Germany, and this guy. Not. Oh crap. I'm sorry. It's Francisco. Not Francisco. I tell you, that's my fault. I tell you, no, look, but Francisco Franco of Spain, all right, who is going to become a very important player as things go forward, okay? Very important. Like how important?
Like
Very important, because literally there's this certain tactic that the Nazis and the Italians used in World War II. Do y'all know what it's called? It starts with a B. It's the lightning war tactic is what it's called. Woo! Cassie to win! Let's go! The Blitz what?
What's tax?
No, Blitz means lightning, and the word they use for war is in there too. It's got a K. The Blitzkrieg. Yeah, exactly. It's called the Blitzkrieg. Yeah. They literally, the reason why he's so important is they practiced this for World War II in Spain. When this guy was coming to power, they used the tactic. They were like, hey, Franco, use Blitzkrieg. We'll show you how to do it. And they practiced it beforehand to see how effective it would be. And it turns out it was extremely what? Extremely effective. Fun fact too, fascism, okay, died in Germany in 1945 when Hitler died. Well, sort of, but yeah, you know what I'm saying? And Italy dies in 1944 when Mussolini dies. Guess when fascism died in Spain? The 1970s. Yeah, like Old Bull was the leader of Spain after World War II for like decades. It was crazy. So like now look, going into it though, I'm gonna post this like lecture. We're gonna get your flip up over break and stuff like that. Like I said, it's gonna be a little bit on the long side, but you're gonna do what to it? You're gonna break it up into 2 parts, okay? You're gonna break it up into 2 parts, okay? And it's a lot of stuff that a lot of you already what? No. And for any of you that have people in your home that are very big World War II fans, they would actually what? Probably love to hear this noise. Like, so yeah, they would be like a big fan. All right, so yeah, all right, so just keep that in the back of your mind, all right? So like now, big thing about it though, okay, have that ready. I'm gonna get all this stuff posted. I'm gonna start getting all this, pay very close attention to what thing?